My Lords, I am grateful to my noble friend Lord Moylan for introducing this bill for a Foetal Sentience Committee to review understanding of fetal sentience and to inform policy. It is a pleasure to follow, indeed I am humbled to follow Lord Alton, with whose views I find myself so often in agreement. The last time it was in a committee which discussed China, and I find him the most persuasive of human rights defenders in this chamber, and have done since I've arrived. This is a modest bill with modest aims to approach policy in this area in the same way as in others, through consultation and the careful weighing of specialist evidence. That, as you would expect, continues to change with new research and new evidence. In this area especially, there are many disagreements about the weight given to different parts of the evidence, and specialists themselves often change their views, as indeed has been pointed out earlier in this debate. In particular, there are now doubts about whether some of the physiological assumptions that have dominated the debate are justified. Emphasis has often been placed on the role of the thalamus, a group of cells centrally placed in the brain which helps to control how sensory and motor signals are passed from one part of the cerebral cortex to another, and that of the cortex, the grey matter, which has a role in memory, thinking, learning, reason, problem-solving, consciousness, and functions related to the senses. The emphasis has been often focused on them in respect of the perception of pain. But some researchers regard this as too narrow. There is, therefore, very good reason for all this complex, controversial, and developing material to be weighed by an independent committee, which can help advise government and parliamentarians to make and shape policy and legislation. The approach already exists in the case of animal welfare, as we have heard, where there is a committee on animal sentience, the Animal Welfare Sentience Act of 2022. I see it as a model for this bill. Indeed, in the UK, the fetus of, as we've heard earlier, of protected animals, in the case of a mammal, bird, or reptile, when half the gestation or incubation period of the relevant species has elapsed, is set out in Section 1 of the Animal Scientific Procedure Act of 1986. This act regulates the use of protected animals in any experimental or other scientific procedure which may cause pain, suffering, distress, or lasting harm to the animal. My Lords, it is important that as a society we do not knowingly and unnecessarily inflict pain. We have legislated to stop this happening in protected animals and prenatal animals. We should now extend this welfare to our own species, and a small but significant step in doing so is to gather and sift the relevant evidence. I understand that one reason why some, including the noble Baroness on the benches opposite, oppose this bill is that they see it as a covert attack on the present abortion laws. If the committee is set up as proposed, they fear that it will, as the science develops, find more and more evidence that fetuses, as they like to regard them, are indeed prenatal babies, able to feel pain from an early stage, and that abortion is merely premature infanticide. Yet, however strong their views, they should not try to bury evidence that goes against them. They should be willing for the scientific picture to be fully understood and presented in all its nuances to policymakers, as this bill proposes, and to make their arguments, just as those who oppose them should do in the light of this bill.